Hey guys, welcome to Whispers of Charleston. My name is Savannah, and today we're going to talk about Drayton Hall. But first, I'm going to do a little bit of light housekeeping. So if y'all could please like, share, rate, and review the podcast on any of your podcast player, iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get the podcast and you listen to it, that would be a humongous help. And if you could also leave 5-star reviews, that way that helps get the podcast out to more people. That would be a huge help as well. Excuse me, I would greatly appreciate that. And I do have an Instagram page up that I'm putting pictures up as I release the episodes, so if y'all can go take a look at that. I do have a Facebook page and a YouTube channel, so come join, come hang out. I like to get to know y'all more, so please come join. So we're going to go ahead and get started with Drayton Hall. So Drayton Hall is considered one of the first one of the finest examples of the Georgian Palladian architecture in the United States. Its grounds represent one of the most significant undisturbed historic landscapes in America. Construction of the house was started in 1739 by John Drayton, and 7 generations of Drayton family lived here in the house until 1974, when the family transferred the property to the National Trust for Historic Preservation. A rare survival, the house had only a few coats of paint in the history and was never upgraded with plumbing or electrical. So kind of like the Aiken Red House. The National Trustee interprets the history and architecture of the house and the lives here for more than 300 years. Drayton Hall is an 18th century plantation house located on the Ashley River, about 15 miles or 24 kilometers northwest of Charleston, and directly across the Ashley River from North Charleston, west of the Ashley in the Low Country. So we have West Ashley, which is in Charleston, and ironically it's named for west of the Ashley. So we have 2 main rivers. We have the Ashley River and we have the Cooper River that flow into Charleston from the harbors. So at the Ashley River kind of separate Charleston from like Charleston and to Somerville. So I live on the Somerville side of the Ashley River. So then if you keep following the Ashley River down, then you go into the Low Country, which is downtown Charleston, then it leads into Johns Island, James Island. And if you keep following down across to the Cooper River from the Ashley River, that is where you get, you find yourself to Isle of Palms and Sullivan's Island, which are the beaches for the Low Country. So an example of the Palladian architecture in North America, and the only plantation house on the Ashley River to survive intact through both Revolutionary and Civil Wars, and it's in the National Historic Landmark. The house was a double projecting portico on the west facade, which faces away from the river and toward the land site approaching from Ashley River Road, which is 61. So if you were to ask any local where the plantations are, they'll always tell you it's on the Highway 61. If you ask a newbie, they'll always tell you to go find Ashley River Road. It's the same exact road, but it depends on who you ask and if they're local or if they're and just recently moved to the city. The portico resembles a similar feature at the Villa Cornaro near Venice, Italy, designed by Andre Paldio. Oh no, I lost my spot. There we go. In 1551, however, the most direct Palladian correlation to Drayton Hall is Villa Piscina. The floor plan is Palladian inspired, as well as perhaps reserved from Plate 38 of John Gibbs, A Book of Architecture, the influential pattern book published in London in 1728. A large central entrance stair hall with a symmetrical divided staircase is backed by a large salon, flanked by square and rectangular chambers. Pediment chimney pieces in the house echo designs of N.G.O. Jones. The mansion was built for the grandfather of John Drayton, John Drayton Sr., who lived from 1715 to 1779, son of Thomas and Anne Drayton. After he bought the property in 1738, for many decades the house was thought to have been started building in 1738 and completed in 1752. But however, in 2014, An examination of wood cores showed that the attic timbers were cut from trees that fell over in the winter of 1747 to 1748, because the attic framing would have to have been in place well before the completion of the interior finishes. The house is thought to have been occupied in the early 1750s. The 7-bay double-pile plantation house is within a 630-acre or 2.5-kilometer site that is part of the plantation based on indigo and rice, and the former site of 13 slave cabins believed to have been housed, which would have housed approximately 78 slaves. 7 generations of Drayton heirs preserved the house, though the flanking outbuildings have not survived. An earthquake destroyed the laundry house in 1886, and then another hurricane destroyed the kitchen in 1893. The house is located in the Ashley River Historic District. It was declared a National Historic Landmark in 1960. So I found 16 pretty cool facts about Drayton Hall. So the first one I kind of already touched base on, that Drayton House was owned and was in the family for 7 generations before becoming a historical site. Drayton Hall was not a working plantation, but served as the commercial center for John Drayton's plantation empire, which totaled 76,000 acres. Some descendants of the enslaved community lived on the property until 1960. John Drayton used architectural pattern books to design Drayton Hall. Number 5, a watercolored picture dated from 1765 was mailed anonymously to the site in 2008. Until that point, the earliest confirmed image of the property was dated to 1845. Drayton Hall is an active archaeological site. Only 2% of the property has been excavated, yielding over 1 million artifacts. Drayton Hall has a preservation department dedicated to researching the historic architecture, landscapes, archaeology, and decorative arts associated with the site. The Drayton Hall desk and bookcase is thought to have been the finest piece of furniture surviving from American colonies. Charles Drayton, who lived from 1743 to 1820, kept a diary recording daily operations of Drayton Hall, and it can be found digitally on the Low Country Digital Library. Number 10, Drayton Hall was built as a Palladian 5-part plan with colonial-made walls connecting the main house to the brick flanker buildings. Drayton Hall was constructed by both enslaved and white craftsmen. The Drayton's wealth was built upon raising cattle, producing indigo, and growing rice, as well as which were dependent on slave laborers. It took over 360,000 hand-made bricks to construct Drayton Hall. Money made from phosphate mining on the property after the Civil War was helped to save Drayton Hall. Drayton Hall has a brand new visitor center, complete with new movie and galleries. And then number 6, Charles Drayton enjoyed botany as a hobby and was close friends with famed French botanist André Monix, from whom he received many plants. Little is known about John Drayton's life prior to purchasing the tract of land in 1738 on which he would construct Drayton Hall. Born into the South Carolina's leading colony families around 1715, Drayton is virtually absent from the public record until his purchase of the property. His wealth was facilitated by the institution of slavery, while no documents survive from the period to provide the exact number of slave individuals owned by John Drayton. He owned more than 100 commercial plantations, which would totaling approximately 76,000 acres of land, and the figure is more than likely in the thousands of slaves owned. Charles Drayton, John's second son, was a product of the Scottish Enlightenment and completed a degree in the medicine in the University of Edinburgh, Scotland. In 1784, he took up residency at Drayton Hall with his wife, Hester Middleton. From Charles' diary, we can see a stratified enslaved society at Drayton Hall through his mentions of skilled artisans like blacksmiths, coppers, and carpenters. These entries about enslaved people are brief, however some people are mentioned repeatedly over the course of time by the first names only. This created social distance between himself and his human property. Charles mentions Toby and Kaisha the carpenter, Dumplin, the cook, George, the bustler. Following the Civil War, phosphate mining and manufacturing became the primary industry in the Low Country, while Low Country until the 1920s, the industry relied on labor of African American freedmen, so communities of laborers formed as they were drawn to the opportunity to work in the mines. Portions of the community continued to live on the property at Drayton Hall until 1960. Families lived here for generations, raising children, maintaining their homes and landscape, cooking, farming, gardening, and keeping up with everyday life at Drayton Hall. As a result, the property was never abandoned, nor did it sit idle. It was a home to a thriving community that provided and privileged the property by living there. So I found an article by someone named Craig Turner, who was a former director of the Museum Interpretation. It was published on February 20th of 2009. So a recent comment from a blog reader inspired me to compose a response to the often asked question, is Drayton Hall haunted? I can say with 100% certainty that you can see a ghost at Drayton Hall. Ghost marks, that is, the faded outlines of pictures and now missing architectural elements that once adorned some interior walls. But could there also be spiritual remains that have been left behind by one or more of Drayton Hall's occupants? Eternally counterparts to be faded lines and layers of history embedded within the walls. Many people, visitors, and staff alike will say absolutely yes, Drayton Hall is haunted, while others will say just as strongly the opposite, that it is not haunted. Several visitors believe that they have captured photographic evidence of ghosts or other spiritual beings inside the house. Shadows, circles, or oddly bright areas appear, seemingly without explanation. Drayton Hall was featured on an episode of America's Most Haunted Places that aired in the Travel Channel in 2003, with the claim that the original family members are said to still walk through the house. Members of our staff who interviewed and described their encounters and experiences with something they felt sure was not of this world. Others still have reported unusual experiences, not in the house but in different areas across the grounds. Over the course of its history, hundreds of people knew Drayton Hall as home. While some were here by choice, others had no options. And of those hundreds, we know many were born here and many died here as well. It took many hands to build and fashion the place that became Drayton Hall, and many more to sustain it and shape its future over time. The tendencies of the historical sites is often to shy away from or just flat out ignore this aspect of their history. Ironically, though, one that really seems to grab people's attention. At a preserved site like Drayton Hall, where every layer is visible, where it seems like you can almost reach out and touch the past, it is hard to not feel the presence of something out of the ordinary. We invite you to come and experience the house and the grounds for yourself and let you decide whether Drayton Hall is haunted or not. Will you feel the presence of the past? Be to the true ghost a puff of cold air, or maybe just this spine tingling of being able to share in such a rare and special place? We will never know. Will we ever have a definite answer to the question? My sense is no. As the I'm trying to find his name. As Craig once said in his article at some point, he said, no, I just lost myself. So Craig said, for skeptics like me, the evidence would have to be extremely compelling. Instead, I find the fingerprints of the brickmaker you can still see and feel in some of the bricks, or the stained area of a wall thought to perhaps from the hands of an enslaved attendant who stood in the waiting with their hands behind them, or the penciled lines marking the heights of the Drayton children in the 1800s, or the peaceful, cool quiet in the once bustling raised basement. To be haunting remembers of many things Drayton Hall has been in the course of almost 3 centuries of history. So it is up to you to decide whether Drayton Hall is haunted or not. I have been to Drayton Hall. It's very pretty. It's very quiet. there's not a whole lot to see, but that doesn't mean that's still not cool to go see. I haven't had any experiences myself, but I've had people tell me that they definitely get cold spots. And again, there is no central AC or heat, so what you feel outside is what you're going to feel inside. So it's kind of like the acre and rent house, where whatever the temperature outside is going to be, it's going to be in the house as well. So if you do go, dress accordingly, because it will get hot and stuffy inside that house. But people do say that they get the sense that people like touching them, or they get cold spots, and with no central air running through it, maybe someone is trying to get a hold of them. But ultimately it's up to you to decide if you think it's haunted or not. So if y'all are ever in Charleston or ever visiting, definitely take a stroll down 61 and see what you can find. There are 3 plantations. So if you're coming from Charleston, you have Drayton Hall, Magnolia Plantation, and Middleton Plantation. I have not been to Magnolia yet, but it's super duper pretty. So if y'all ever in Charleston, go take a look and see what you can find. And thank y'all for listening. All right, have a good one. Bye, y'all.